Welcome, everybody, to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting of July 16th, 2019. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, except for Vice Chair Chaburka and Council Member Blair, who have both asked to be excused. I'm going to put former Chair Heyer on the spot and ask him to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you don't mind.
Would everyone please rise and recite the pledge with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Please consider joining us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, first item on our agenda is a recognition for National Night Out Day. We're joined here by Deputy Chief Young and Ms. Diana Lopez, our favorite. We've asked Councilmember Lopez to read this evening's joint proclamation.
No relation though, right?
No, that's correct. Other than the coincidence. Other than the coincidence, yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Chair, to present these recognition and declaring August 6, 2019 as National Night Out Day in Ogden City. Whereas National Night Out Against Crime is a community building campaign designed to heighten crime prevention awareness, generate support for local anti-crime programs, and build neighborhood camaraderie. National Night Out is observed annually on the first Tuesday in August by more than 16,000 communities throughout the United States, including several communities in Utah. And whereas National Night Out is an opportunity to build partnerships and healthy relationships between law enforcement and the community, the campaign, which dates back 36 years, was organized by the National Association of Town Watch on the premise that the most effective way to combat crime is to create a community mission. And whereas National Night Out increases awareness of police programs and allows residents to meet and mingle with law enforcement officials, emergency service personnel, firefighters, search and rescue workers, animal service personnel, and citizen emergency response teams from throughout Weber County, it is one of the most successful and widely attended police events. Whereas the 2019 National Night Out event will take place at the Ogden Amphitheater in downtown Ogden from 5:30 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 6. Throughout the evening, there will be many opportunities for residents to gather information and services at no cost. This year's event will include free food, prizes, free bike helmets, a rock climbing wall, free eye screenings, and a police K-9 demo. And whereas Ogden residents are asked to join people from across the nation in locking their doors, turning on their porch lights, and spending the evening outside with neighbors, law enforcement officials, public safety personnel, community groups, and businesses to aid in the fight against crime and build a stronger community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim August 6, 2019 as National Night Out Day in Ogden City. We encourage residents to take advantage of the opportunity to learn more about crime prevention and public safety by attending the National Night Out event. We appreciate the significant efforts of those in our community who continue to make this annual event a success, and we're grateful for those for the outstanding and often arduous work law enforcement officials and public safety personnel perform on a daily basis to keep our community safe. And do we have to make a motion to adopt this joint proclamation? So I'd like to make that motion, Chair, to adopt this National Night Out Day proclamation.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt the joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. We're joined here by Deputy Chief Young and Diana Lopez.
Thank you so much. Yeah, please.
Come.
I wanted to start by thanking Diana. She's really the machine that makes the wheels turn behind Night Out Against Crime. She's just been a ball of energy in this project, and I've been associated with this since I was an officer in community policing. We did it up at Lester Park, and it's been more than 15 years. And the level of support that we have from the city council right now is beyond anything we have ever experienced before. And it's appreciated and it's noticed, and we really do appreciate you coming out, being part of it, mingling, and it's helping grow the event. It's bigger than it's ever been. Every year it gets a little bit more bigger. So thanks so much for the proclamation, and thanks for your support of the event.
Thanks, Diana, for everything you're doing for the event. It gets bigger every year.
Let's do a photo.
Let's do a photo.
Come on.
We'll share the news.
Thank you.
Squeeze it in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All we ask is that when we suit up in that dog suit, that is it Havoc? Maybe we is it Havoc the dog? Is he the big one? He's the big fella. Let's
Yeah.
not give Havoc to Rich this year.
Yeah, I got him last year, and he got the little one.
Yeah. I'll take the big one.
We've got a bloodhound now that just kind of,
Okay.
doesn't do anything. You can just come pet the bloodhound.
You know, that's worth going to see. That's absolutely worth going to see.
Yeah.
So who's going to do it this year?
You.
Wait a minute.
I think it's a seniority thing, so yeah, you're in. Edged us out.
Chair, could I jump in real quick as well while Diana's here? Congrats. It looks like you're getting some sleep. That's a great thing. I can't imagine. It's good to have you back. But I'll just say, when I went the first time 7 years ago to Lester Park, I think they did the whole thing with 3 police vehicles and maybe a dozen and a half hot dogs. And that served the whole group that was there. You've built this into something that is absolutely amazing. So props to you, and you've done a phenomenal job with that. We really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Good job.
Keep it up. And Mayor, I didn't know you could eat a dozen and a half hot dogs. That's impressive.
There's only 4 of us there, so we divided and
You did- oh,
conquered.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My apologies. Okay, let's move on to proofs of minutes. For the joint work session of January 16th, regular meeting of March 5th, and work session of March 26th. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct.
For the regular meeting of January 22nd, joint work session of March 5th, and strategy session of March 12th, Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair, I have reviewed those, and they appear to be accurate.
For the joint work session and regular meeting of February 5th and regular meeting of February 26th, Councilmember White.
Yes, Chair Nadolski, I've read those and they appear to be accurate.
And work session of January 16th, joint work session and regular meeting of February 19th, joint work session of February 26th, and joint work session of April 9th, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair Nadolski, I reviewed the minutes, and they appear to be accurate to the best of my recollection. And I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember White to approve the minutes as presented. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thanks for all of the reading you guys did. Those were a lot of minutes. I think we're catching up, though. Getting there, huh? We made progress tonight. Yeah. All righty. We've got a number of items on common consent tonight. I think I'll just quickly give an overview of it so that the public knows what we're considering, so we're not skipping over much. We're making some consideration of appointment of Wesley Boykin to the Ogden Diversity Commission. We're considering the appointment of Mike Nichols, Leslie Briggs, John Malmberg, Robert Dandoy, Dwight Baldwin, Justin Jackson, and Frank Elschulz to the Ogden Airport Advisory Committee. We are considering a street vacation at Center Avenue between 1610 to 1619 South. We are considering the approval of 2019 election poll workers and setting dates for the Board of Canvass for August 27th and November 19th. We are considering an ordinance adding a project for the amphitheater upgrades and for Valley Drive road slide repair in the capital improvement plan. And finally, during the budget session, we had considered and approved funding to finally pay our planning commissioners a small stipend for the, what, average probably 5 hours a meeting that lasts until about midnight. So this common consent tonight includes a resolution that would formalize that per diem compensation that we approved in the budget itself.
Chair, I would then make a motion that we adopt the common consent agenda as listed.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Stevens. And
Chair.
again, yep.
Chair, just before you go on, I just want to make sure that there's 2 items in here that we're just setting public hearing.
Oh,
I
did
just want to make sure that people understand that.
Thank you for the clarification. For the street vacation, we're setting a public hearing for that, so we'll have that item back into the chambers to talk about, as well as the capital improvement plan item,
Correct.
which is
Thank you.
a significant funding thing. So thanks for clarifying it. We're setting the public hearing in this decision today, and we'll revisit that item as well. And tonight we are doing a roll call vote rather than a voice vote because of the ordinance related to the planning commissioners.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye. That passes. That was a lot of business we've been working on for a long time that we just put through. So thank you, guys. Okay, next item on our agenda is public hearing, water utility fees. I think we have Kent and Moffett here with us. Good to see you, Kenton. Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight to talk about these adjustments that we're making to some of our utility fees. I appreciate the administration for allowing me to represent them tonight. So there's 3 parts to these adjustments. The first one is bacteriological fees. We call them BACT fees. And what these are BACT tests. What these are is when someone adds to the system or connects to it, we test the water to make sure it's safe. So that's what that one is. The connection fee adjustment is the amount that someone pays when they're connecting to our system. And we'll go over that a little bit more. And then the last one is a fire system test, which is very, very similar to a hydrant flow test. All right, so BACT sampling. The state requires us to take 80 BACT samples a month. We actually take 96 to be safe, so we do a little bit above and beyond just to make sure that the system doesn't have any issues. When we say a routine BACT, that means something that's required by the state. That last bullet is an investigative BACT. Investigative is something typically that's related to construction. It might also be for a health safety concern that we have. We might do an investigative just to be safe. So that's the difference there. And in 2018, we did 62 investigative BACTs, and this ordinance only affects those investigative sampling. That's typically related to construction. So,
What's the price of that fee?
one more slide and we'll get there.
Okay.
I got it broken out so that you understand kind of what we're charging and why. So that's a great question, Doug. Thank you. We have a lab at our treatment plant now. That's been very, very helpful. So these fees, instead of being shipped out like they used to be, will actually be processed there. What that does is it helps us get a quicker turnaround if there's a problem. It saves us a couple days. So in the past, we wouldn't get the results until the full time had passed for the sample. Now, because we're at the lab, we can see when a sample's starting to go bad, and then we can start reacting then. So that's been helpful for us. It shaves a couple of days off of our response time. The BACT fees that we will charge will generate about $3,000 to $5,000 annually. So it's relatively minor, but that $3,000 to $5,000 helps us recoup costs, helps us to just keep progressing and making improvements to the system. And so that fee breakdown, that gentleman up there is our lab operator up there, Brant. He's a great guy. And that's our picture of our lab at the plant. The breakdown covers $12 worth of testing materials. That's what we got from Weaver Basin. That's the fee that they used to charge us. The $34 is labor. The labor includes not only collecting the sample, which is usually the trickiest part, also the paperwork to get that sample collected and transferred up to our treatment plant and then processed. So that's why that's a higher amount. And then the fuel and wear is just the cost of transport. There's a $30 fee for emergency after-hours sampling. The reason that is because we would have to send two people in, or we'd have to send a person in to check it off hours, and we are required by law to pay them 2 hours if they come in. So that's what that after-hours fee is. So hopefully that explains that. The connection fee adjustment. So the only thing, even though the ordinance looks like it gets marked up and totally changed, really the only thing that gets changed is how we charge for materials. So currently there's a fixed fee for materials, labor, overhead, and equipment costs. The proposal changes only the materials portion of that from a fixed cost that's set by ordinance to an actual at-cost fee. The reason that is important is because it's really hard to outline every situation and say how much it's going to cost for materials. However, when you charge at cost, it's very easy to defend because all we have to do is produce the invoice that says this is how much we paid for parts, and then that's how we charge. So it's really transparent. It's easy that way. So that's why that is getting changed. That's the only thing getting changed. And largely, this will just be a pass-through. Basically, we buy the materials and they pay us for the materials. All right, and then the fire system test, the last part. There's currently an ordinance for a fire flow test. Typically, a fire flow test is also related to development, fire system design. And that's currently by ordinance requires is a $75 fee. A fire system test is largely the same thing, but it's done on a private side, but it takes us as much work, if not more work, than a hydrant fee. Than a hydrant test, and that's because we have to shut water off, monitor things, shut it back, turn it back on. It takes a long time. So the current ordinance, you could argue, kind of covers this, but we're just going to be trying to be transparent and add it and specifically put the language in there so that we can recover some of these costs and labor that we have there. And then the additional revenue for this is probably going to be about $2,000 to $3,000. So that is basically the gist of it. This is basically just to try and recover costs at the city expense to perform these services. It won't affect the rate payers or anything. It's associated with businesses typically. I believe you asked a question about the investigative sampling. If a citizen wanted to do that, if they could come in and pay, and we would let them do that. If they wanted to come in and pay us to do it, we'd run it. It should also be noted a contractor doesn't necessarily have to use us for the back T sampling. They could actually hire somebody else to do it, but because the cost is so low and we actually prefer that we see it, they probably won't because it's just too convenient to pay $50 and then we do it. So, but there is other options that as long as they follow the rules outlined by the state, we would let them. So I don't see that happening, but they could. That's it. Any
questions for Ken?
I do have a quick question. I brought this up earlier in our work session about the fixed versus at cost, and I understand why a city would want to do that, but one of my concerns is the process. So if I'm a developer, I know right now what that cost is going to be to me, and I can figure that into my overall plan. At what point do you involve that developer or person that wants to connect so that it's at an at cost? And then the second part of that is, can you tell them what that is right there and then?
We can tell in ballpark what it's going to be pretty quickly. Most connections are taps, so it's pretty standard. And they would know kind of what to expect because they're contractors. They're used to purchasing those types of things, so they would know quickly if we're out of line. The problems arise when you have to do like a special weld or cut in a T to a line, and that can be totally different each time. So when that'll be hashed out with the developer would be during the initial plan review, because one of the things we would decide is how they're going to connect to our system. We'd look at the pipes in the area where they're going to connect and determine what it's going to entail to connect. Is it just going to be a normal tap? Is it going to be cutting in a valve and a T? And so those are all things a developer and a contractor would be very familiar with. So the welding is very up in the air. That's really the one we lose a lot is on the welding that has to go in with that.
So I guess my follow-up question to that is, so they're in talking to the building services or whatever. Do they have to then call you in that same meeting, or are you going to be there at that time? I guess, is it going to delay their process that much further because now we have to have you guys come in and give them an estimate?
Probably not, but there might be times when it might take an extra day or something to determine if it's a really specialty type connection, but largely no. Largely we'll be able to know ahead of time on a typical connection what it will be, and then we can just we'll have an updated price list from our local vendors that we'll keep current. We can just refer to that, so it shouldn't cost much time. It's a great question.
Any other questions for Kenton? How about what if they need to connect into some really old pipe? How do you guys handle that connection? And
Very carefully.
very carefully.
That's a lot of times when the special circumstances come around is because they're connecting to a line that's maybe large diameter and really old, and so we have to make a connection that's safe so we don't blow the whole line up, kind of a thing. And so that's really what this covers is special circumstances like that. But we have better and better records, and we've also formed relationships with local welders and things, so we kind of have a better idea than we used to about what that is.
About how much are we talking for these special circumstances? Like the worst case scenario, you get in there and everything's bad. I mean,
it can be in the thousands of dollars. It can go up to tens of thousands. It just depends on the size of the pipe and the type of welding that needs to be done. If a T needs to be welded in, that's obviously more expensive. It's a lot of work. If it's just like a corp stop or something corp stop that needs to be welded to it, then it's less, but it's still welding, so it's still specialty type deal. Okay. And we know the condition of the pipes, so we know which ones we have to do very carefully.
How often does this happen? I mean,
it happens a few times a month that we have something special. A really big, expensive one, maybe a couple times a year. But these special circumstances happen quite a bit. So
okay.
It depends on development too. I mean, if development's quicker,
Sure.
there's more. If it's slower, there isn't as many. So.
And are we primarily talking about a homeowner, or are we talking about a developer usually?
It's usually a contractor or developer.
Contractor?
Hardly is it ever
For a homeowner or for a developer?
Typically, it's for a developer. I mean, there might be a homeowner that if a homeowner's got an existing service there, we'll usually be the ones that cover the tap. They might pay for relocating and upgrading some things, but the tap and the connections, usually we do it because we have an existing service there that we want to upgrade. Okay. If they start from scratch, like demo everything, then it would be on them. But that's typically a developer doing that. So
okay, so we've been charging, what was it, $50, or what was the set fee? I don't.
For
the connections.
For connections, it varies widely. It's all outlined in that table as best as can be, and it's really hasn't been updated for a while, but it varies from a few $100 up to thousands of dollars.
Okay. But we've been footing the bill for a long time on.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. The real one we've been losing on is the back T sampling, and we hope to make that to where we can not take losses on that. We lost a lot of labor, a lot of time on that one.
Okay.
I don't think you'll see too much kickback on the fees for the connections because it's easily defensible. Like I said, we can show this is how much it cost us.
Is it common practice in other communities, or is that something that the development and contractor communities are?
That's a good question.
Used to seeing, and
are they used to seeing it in certain areas of the country? I think so. Here, maybe not as much, but I think they'll understand it. Again, because we can say this is how much it cost. We can give them an invoice. The labor and everything else is still set by ordinance. Everything else is still set by ordinance. The only thing that changes is the materials.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Kenton?
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kenton. This is a public hearing, so don't go too far. This is your opportunity to address the council on this item if you wish. Seeing no movement, I will entertain a motion.
Move to
I
close
didn't-
public hearing.
I didn't catch it. Okay.
Second.
We had a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is closed. Any other comments or questions on this item? Or if not, we can entertain them.
No, I guess my comment is just to make sure that we continue to work the process so that it doesn't hinder the developers. And I think there are ways to do that. And, you know, I would just even, one day is even that much longer, so. But being aware of it is helpful.
Chair, I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2019-29.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-29. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you, Kenton. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming with us. See us tonight. It's been a while. Okay, reports from administration. Series 2019 Bond Parameters Resolution. We are, I can't see who all is behind that column, but aha, there you go. Welcome.
Chairman, you know that if it said bond, I was going to appear, right?
As if from nowhere.
As if from
That's-
nowhere.
I know. I knew there was a surprise, a pleasant surprise
There you
coming,
go.
but
There you go. Chairman,
knows.
Council, Mayor, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I've got a quick PowerPoint presentation. I took off a lot of the detail that we went through.
Laura, before you keep going, can you
Yes.
just introduce yourself, who you work for,
Oh,
just so
yes.
people know your role
You
here?
all know me, but
Yeah.
you all don't know me.
Thanks.
I am the city's financial advisor. My name is Laura Lewis. I am with the firm Lewis, Young, Robertson, and Birmingham. I have been doing public finance municipal bonds for 30 years. That seems so long, and but I've loved it. So they say time flies when you're having fun, and so I mostly must have been having fun. So it's a pleasure and an honor to represent Ogden in my role as financial advisor to the city. I am bound under my industry's regulations to serve as your fiduciary. I put your interests ahead of my own. I serve at your request and structure financings as what you direct me to do, and in the manner that produces the lowest interest costs. Sort of looking overall at what you want to accomplish. How's that?
Thank you.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
great.
that's helpful. Thanks.
All right, so the city is contemplating issuing some franchise fee revenue bonds. Franchise fees come from fees that are imposed on your utilities, electric, gas, telecom, and cable. You impose the state maximum of 6%, as do most cities, probably not every city, but most cities impose that same amount, and it's a revenue source that the city can use under state law as security for the bonds. So we'll talk about the project. I don't know how to say, beam to the next slide, is this it?
But you do have to say beam to the next slide every time you touch this part. Yeah.
Bing. My kids give me such grief about how inept I am at, anything electronic. It's a little bit comical, but
Well, you started this with overheads, but now we're
yes, I mean, I am old, as we now know, because I've been doing this for 30 years. And I didn't start when I was 2, so. Lisa, I see the error in the slide that we could not see to correct. So sorry about that. So the proposed new money projects that are to be funded are an energy cost saving related projects. They're various and sundry projects that will, bring more efficient things, as a global term, boilers, lights, etc., as listed here, that will use less energy. That reduction in your energy costs will result in actual savings and money you don't have to pay out for energy. And as we will go through this presentation, you'll see that the savings, we take those savings into account as we structure the debt. The debt will be structured below the savings. What you can't read, because of all the garbledy-goop of my address, is that in addition to that, you have structural modifications and lighting improvements at Lindquist Field. There are structural repairs as well as, I don't want to call them operational repairs, and I can't see what's on here either. Sorry about that. Okay, how do I go up? How do you really challenge me? Go up.
Back.
Back.
Oh, back up. The up arrow. How? Really? There we go. That's the one I want. Those will total $805,000 based on the current estimates that the professionals in that industry have provided to you. In addition to that, you have some outstanding bonds on the Lindquist Field. They were issued in 2007, and those can currently be refunded. That is a term of art in my industry. In the commercial lending world, you would think of that as refinancing. We don't have the luxury in the bond world of doing that whenever we so choose. Bond instruments are called fixed income for a reason. The people that buy them are planning on those interest payments for a certain amount of time. Most bonds are callable in 10 years, some a little longer, some a little shorter. It depends on sort of how you structure that component when those bonds are issued. These bonds are currently callable and have a rate currently of about 5.08%. Their current final maturity is 2028. Your annual payments are about $244,000. Since they are callable, we can refund those and generate about $25,000 of savings per year. If we, were to pile all that money up and say, what would that mean if I had it today and I invested it over time? That is what net present value is. It would generate $209,000 of savings to the city. So the timing is very good because with these two new money projects that you're contemplating funding, the current bonds can be refinanced for savings, and so it makes sense to combine them all into one transaction. The benefit of that is we don't have to hire legal counsel to do one bond issue for Lindquist and one for the energy saving projects and one for the refinancing. We hire bond counsel once. They do one set of documents. We hire one underwriter. We have a larger size transaction, which attracts more interest in the market and will generally deliver lower interest costs. With that, we estimate that the savings will be about $400,000 in combining them. That's both in reduction of cost of issuance and in lower interest costs because we can do a larger transaction with lower interest rates. And as much as your staff loves to read bond documents, they'll only have to read one set, not three. So, for the bondholders, there will be an official statement that will, if you're a bond purchaser, what you're looking to for the ultimate security is your franchise fee revenues. For the city's budgetary purposes, you're going to want to know, well, how much goes to the energy saving, how much goes to Lindquist Field new money, how much is for the refunding. So I'm going to break that out for you here in the official statement. You won't, you'll see us speaking to these projects, but we won't break the financing out from the bond purchaser's perspective, but your staff will have that in order to track the right monies from the right budget. So for funding specific to the energy savings projects, we have construction acquisition funds of about $4,575,000. We will fund 9 months of capitalized interest. Again, for your constituents, bondholders expect interest payments every 6 months, no matter what. Again, they're called fixed income investments for a reason. They want to plan on receiving that income. So we want to be able to offer that to the bondholder so they don't ding us with higher interest cost. In order to do that, we fund from the bond proceeds that effectively that first interest payment or the first 9 months of interest. We put that into an account with the trustee. The trustee uses that to make the first payment while all of the improvements you're making are being done to generate the savings to make the bond payments. The first payment we anticipate will be due about September of 2020. Will be structured, I'll show you here in a couple of slides. They'll be structured so the payments will be lower than, I tried to get all those ESCO acronyms out of there. Energy saving cost, what's the O for back there? Are you paying attention? Oh, company. CO is company. Oh, easy. Okay. I have a lot of acronyms in my business, but I think they have beat me. The anticipated original issue premium would result in the fact that we actually issue less in par amount of bonds than we need. Then you go, well, how do you do that? How do you issue $4.3 million and deliver $4,575,000? Bond purchasers will pay more than 100 cents on the dollar for the bonds, and that's called an original issue premium. So the projected annual energy savings is listed here. McKinstry is who the city is working with in regard to those energy saving measures. And I believe they have been conservative in their estimates of what those savings will be. And with those conservative estimates, we have put those here, and we'll show you. That column, fiscal savings, the second column over, is the same column from those savings shown on the page before. The debt service, as you can see, in each and every maturity is lower than the cost savings. The cost savings will continue beyond the 10 years of this debt. Once you install an LED light, in your big light fixtures on your street, they will be good for longer than 10 years.
We're good.
Is everyone okay out there?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll pay very careful attention to that as we go into the market. So here's a graph of that same thing. I'm a real believer that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you probably would like me to say less than 1,000 words. So the bar is your estimated debt service. The line is the savings from the energy measures that you'll put in place to reduce those costs. The funds will come from each department whose budgets, benefited by the fact that, they don't have as large of a energy bill now. And again, as I've mentioned, the savings will continue after the debt is paid. The Lindquist Field additional funding, again, back to the same number I showed you a few pages before. The construction acquisition fund's about $805,000. To reduce the budgetary impact, we have wrapped that payment of this new money piece, we call it in my world, we have wrapped that around the existing payments on Lindquist Field. So, another option would be we could increase that and pay it off at the same time, but then you've got to grapple with where are we putting that, where's that money coming out of our budget? What we have done is said we're going to keep the Lindquist Field payments like you've been paying, like you've had in your budget, and we effectively are going to extend those out by 3 more years. If we were not doing the refunding, that payment would be extended out by 4 years, but because we can capture that refunding savings, it effectively makes one of those years' payment. Final payment we're expecting on those bonds is 2031. Back to another beautiful picture. The savings provided by the refunding result in the debt service of the new money portion being no higher than your current debt, and we only need to extend it 3 years instead of 4. I might have said 2 instead of 3 a minute ago. I apologize. We will extend it 3 years instead of 4. So you can see the new money piece is kind of the reddish colored bar. We have the interest component related to that new money piece. We have your existing, your 2007 bonds that will be refunded with 2019. That's kind of that greenish bar. So there will be no immediate budgetary impact to you in that regard. So summary, the projects can be funded with no immediate additional budgetary impact. There will be a budgetary impact because in 7 years when your other debt would roll off, we've now added 3 payments, but they're the payments equal to what you've been paying. The repayment will be made from the sources noted above. And I think it's important to understand, I try to remind all my clients, the planned debt security will be franchise fees. The expectation is that you will utilize the savings and the payments you've been normally using to make the payments on the Lindquist Field. You'll be using those. So you say, well, why are we using this different security? Well, because again, I'm your fiduciary. I want low interest rates, right? So if we, say to the bondholders, if they don't pay, you can go after the city and, suck up those franchise fees for your payment. Bondholders like that better. Then you can go and unscrew all the light bulbs on whatever street your new light bulbs are inserted. So we get a better bond rating, lower interest rates. The security revenues are only impacted if you don't make your debt service payments. Honestly, the bond market doesn't care where you pull the money from as long as you pay them. They want to know where they'll pull it from if you don't pay them. And that's what we've told them. The estimated timing of the financing, we're here tonight for you to consider adoption of the, what we refer to now as the super parameters resolution, and for you to set a hearing date relative to the use of the pledge of the franchise fee revenues. Under state law, we're required to have 2 publications of that resolution and for you to hold a public hearing. Our expectation is somewhere around August 22nd, we'll receive the rating. You could determine to commence work on the projects after the hearing and receipt of rating if you would so choose to do so. We would sell the bonds in early September and close mid to late September. Once you've held the public hearing and we have a rating, I mean, could, the financial world come to an end and I not issue bonds? I suppose there's a scenario, but the likelihood of, our ability to not be able to fund those projects after that is very, very, very minuscule. So the requested council action for these funding elements is to adopt what's called a super parameters resolution. It's been several years, I want to say close to 5, where this changed under state law. We used to adopt what's called a parameters, no super, parameters resolution, and then we would come back to you in a formal meeting like this and have all the final everything done. There was some concern under a state law issue that if we did that, because by the time we've placed the bonds in the market and we're back in the old system for a bond purchase agreement, if something were to, effectively shoot that in the head at that point, we've got Houston, we have a problem. It's, there are bondholders all over the country who have planned on, purchasing your bonds and giving you money, and it's really untenable to them to have a commitment to provide money to you and then not be able to provide it to you and have those bonds. So the legal minds that be in the bond world devise a super parameters resolution where we set maximum parameters, and then you have a pricing committee. And that pricing committee, as long as the bonds that are issued stay within those parameters, can approve everything that we need to finalize that. The stated par amount in your parameters resolution is $7.5 million. I anticipate that par amount will only be $6.6 million. I always like to have headroom because I've, early on in my first and second year of doing this, I was surprised on more than one occasion of, oh, can we do this? Or what about that? So I always just have some headroom just because. The maximum term is 15 years. I anticipate approximately 12 or 13 years currently. The maximum coupon rate for the bonds is 5.5%. The maximum discount, if some of the bonds are priced at a discount instead of a premium, will be 3%. I currently anticipate the true interest cost is kind of a weighted average interest. Think of sort of APR. It's not quite APR, but something close to that in the commercial world, to be about 2.25%, 2.5%. It will set the pricing committee members. I can read that language to you if you'd like to see that, and it will you will schedule and hold a public hearing related to the pledge of the franchise fees to support the bonds. Whew, I think that's it. Now, with all of that, I am happy to address any questions or concerns that you may have.
Questions for Laura?
Chair, I have a couple.
Yep.
So the first one, I don't know how to, I'll just ask them. So we're using the money from the bond, we're using the money from the energy savings to pay for the bond. Are there other available financial tools other than the bond that you would look at?
Yes, I actually explored the option of doing it as an equipment lease, and it could be done that way. The challenge is that the interest rate's higher, and so I thought, well, again, what can I do to lower that? We pledge franchise fees. So the first thing I say, okay, when we're using a pledge of the franchise fees, we're not planning on using them, The thing we have to consider is what headroom am I eating up of your ability to use franchise fees to support other debt, right? So let's say you as a council want to come do some big fill in the blank project. I won't name any potential projects because I don't want to stir up something that's not real, because it's just an example. You want to come do project X next year, and you say to me, Laura, how can we best do this? And I look at it and say, well, franchise fees, right? The headroom you currently have is about $20 million. If you came to me next year and said, we want to do a project, and I think the best way to finance it is franchise fees, even with this, you still have $20 million of headroom. So if you know of some
So we
project
have the ability, if we
larger
wanted
than
to
that,
bond again,
Yes.
or another bond. Okay.
yes, that is accurate.
Okay. I'm listening.
Okay. Nope, you're great. All
And you're
very
only-
good questions.
And you're only talking headroom to secure the debt,
Right.
not to
Not to
pay the debt
repay it. Yes,
obligation.
that's a very good point, Chairman. A very, very good point.
Thanks.
I have one other question.
Sure.
So you said get a better rating. Do we start with the base rate? I mean, like a base.
No, the rating process is quite interesting, and it has evolved over time. There was a point prior to 2008. Oh, what happened then, right? Prior to 2008, there were 5 municipal bond insurers that were all AAA rated. If you could get any investment grade rating, which in my world is AAA is the best, BBB is the lowest. Some rating agencies use a nomenclature of BAA instead of BBB. If you could get anywhere in there, and I would think any city in Utah could get somewhere in there, you would march over to the insurers and say, we'd like to pay you for insurance, and you'd pay them a fee, and bada bing, your bonds are rated AAA. So they cared. We had to do rating presentations, but the market generally cared a little bit less about what your rating said. And then 2008 came along, and Lehman Brothers is no more, and those 5 AAA bond insurers, guess what else they were insuring? Mortgage-backed securities. Oh, what was the problem in 2008? A mortgage-backed securities, right? So we no longer have that luxury, and suddenly all the investors in bonds went, holy crap, we better pay attention to what that rating says, right? A lot of pressure on the rating agencies, because not too long prior to Lehman declaring bankruptcy, they were investment grade rated. Surprise, market, right? So now there's an enormous amount of attention placed on that rating process. So they rate each specific bond issue. So the city could have 5 different ratings. You could have a rating on geo bonds. It's different from the rating on your water revenue bonds. It's different from your rating on your franchise fee bonds. It's different from your rating on a building authority bond, right? They rate each specific debt based on its security and the things like what additional bonds can you issue and that kind of thing. So there's no really base rating. I mean, the city is in very good financial stead. Your water revenue bonds were upgraded a couple of years ago. And, there are things that cities can control and things that you can't control that go into that rating. Things you can control is, do you look at, long-range financial plans? I mean, they'll ask about your capital facilities plan. They'll, they read the paper, read the media. If there's anything that frightens them, they'll ask us about it at the rating presentation. So there's a lot of things that are in your control, but there are things that are not in your control. One of the things that's not in your control that can be a challenge is your median household income. And it's not like you can all say, oh, we'd like our income to be higher tomorrow and have your median income increase, right? There are things, so like in Provo, one of their challenges is with that income because they have so many BYU students. Right? So there are a lot of things that go into that, and I would certainly encourage you to read the rating report when it comes out. I think you'll find it, quite informative.
Thank you.
Do you know what rating you anticipate for this time?
Oh, I should have been prepared to answer that. I would think you would get an A+ or better, and if you can give me some minute while I'm sitting, I can see what your current rating. You have debt outstanding for your RDAs for the junction that has a pledge of tax increment with a backstop of franchise fees. These ought to be rated similarly to how those are rated. I just have enough clients I can't remember all the ratings on all my deals, and because I'm old.
So tax increments no longer allowed to be used for
No, it's allowed to be used. It's
But it has
just,
to be
you know,
maxed out.
I always, you know, remind people, put your, you know, bond purchaser hat on and say, what would you rather have? Would you rather have increment that you don't really know how that project's going to do, and what if the buildings fall down in an earthquake? Or would you rather have franchise fees that have been consistent forever, right? So again, if I can use franchise, I can lower the interest rates, make it more likely that the tax increment or the energy savings will repay,
Okay.
will make that debt payment.
Any other questions for Laura?
Back at the Lindquist Field, this may be for Lisa, but the Raptors pay us a certain amount each year for the use of the field. There's a portion of that amount of $100,000 that is paid to the city. A portion of that actually goes. Does that apply to this bond at all or not?
So the current bonds are held by the MBA, and the Ogden City has a lease agreement with the MBA where we pay enough to cover those bond payments each year. It's about $245,000 a year. We receive $100,000 from the Raptors annually, and then the city is responsible for water, electrical, and other utilities at the stadium. Those can range between $50,000 to $75,000. So the $100,000 from the Raptors helps us pay those operating costs and then helps us supplement the lease payment the city makes to the MBA.
The 50 to 75,000. That's for the utilities.
Water, electrical. There's some field maintenance. I don't remember all of the detail right now, but you know, the water bill's like $36,000 a year. Electrical, maybe $12,000 a year. So it can be significant.
I was surprised by the terms of the contract and the duration of it. I mean, there's nothing I or we can do about it now, but
It's
that is a low cost to me.
there was a resolution that went to the contract. It was done in 2007, and I can forward the agreement to your staff, but there were some whereas, there was some logic behind why they wanted to do it at that time. You know, 2007 was very different for the city
For
than
sure.
today is.
But it doesn't come due again until 2027.
The terms of the
term?
agreement expire December 31st of 2027.
Okay. Seems like we are spending a fortune on the debt for the construction, the utilities, the maintenance.
Yes,
and the maintenance is being rolled into these bonds again.
so we don't finance operations through.
Correct.
So when I look at that stack, you know, someone might look at it differently. I look at it covering operations first and then helping us cover the capital.
Right. But there's a lot of maintenance, deferred maintenance on here that we have
Yes.
to bond for.
Yes.
That
Yes.
we're not getting
Yes.
as part of that agreement.
Yeah, when we did the bonds in 2007, it was a $3 million bond. And I don't know the condition of the field at that point in time. But, you know, a lot was done then. But with maintenance on a professional field like that, it can be significant.
But we own the facility, so there's no property tax.
Yeah, it is owned by Ogden City.
Gosh, okay.
I would think that the maintenance of the field, there's a certain standard that the professional baseball company provides that needs to be rated in the league there, but also the lighting, and that's why the lighting is being improved in that, is that we needed to bring it up to a level that would be to the standard of the league aspects there. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Any other questions for Laura? I've got a couple questions still. How much do we pay for the closing costs, for lack of a better term, to do this?
Let me pull up the numbers. I'll give you our best estimate.
Thanks. I just couldn't quite get that number in the
hundreds of pages.
And it's,
a
there's
heavy
a
one.
lot of pages
It's a big one,
of
yeah.
this. Here we go. For this particular issue, we're estimating that the cost of issuance, including what we would pay the underwriter to market the bonds, would be about 180, 190,000 in there somewhere.
Where does all that 180 go to?
I don't have a specific breakdown. I can certainly provide that to your staff, and she can distribute that to you. But large portion, typically the largest portion is to the underwriter. Again, the plan is to bid that out and figure out what that actual cost is. Largest portion usually goes to the underwriter. Second in dollar amount is typically bond counsel. Third is rating agencies. Fourth is your financial advisor. Fifth is typically trustee. I may have those not in perfect order, but I can provide you detail in that regard.
Okay.
I just don't have it right in front of me.
Thanks. The bond counsel, that's a legal requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I was personally kind of confused, and so we clarified it in the work session. I want to make sure we clarify the same thing here.
Okay.
Procedurally speaking.
Yes.
Tonight we are considering a parameters resolution.
A super parameters resolution.
Sorry.
I should wear a cape. No.
Yeah, that would remind me to say it every time. And we're setting a public hearing for August 20th.
Correct.
We'll be accepting public comment on the 20th, but we won't be taking any action because we've already taken the action tonight.
Correct.
So this, to me, is totally backwards, and I was
And
confused.
we're just following state law.
Correct. So I asked our...
I don't disagree, but do remember that you have members that sit on the pricing committee.
Right.
So let's say that, for some reason, whatever, I mean, it's not happened before. There's always a first that you have, this hue and cry of, we don't want you to use franchise fees. And they come and say that at the hearing, then your pricing committee members would say, well, let's alert Lara that we're, probably not going to approve the pricing, so we might as well stop now, right? So you do have control in that way, if you will. And, again, so that you're aware, if that were to happen and you still wanted to do the project, we could go back to, what Councilwoman White said, well, is there another way to finance this? Yes, we can finance it using the equipment as collateral. Your interest rate goes up. You'd have to decide if that's something you wanted to do, but we would have to come back before you to do that.
Okay. The state Supreme Court part?
And it could be that they changed the law as a result of that
that
Supreme
ruling?
Court ruling.
Okay. It's just, I've gotten the clarification myself, but we did it in there. That's not in here. We've got a lot of people with us, so I asked the question so that everyone else could benefit from the
Completely
answer
understand.
as well. It's counterintuitive for most everybody.
But this is the law that they say, if you want to do this, this is the things you need to do, and
Right.
That's what we do.
So we're not thrilled to have it backwards, but we do have to follow the law.
Yes, sir.
That's fair. Okay. Any other questions for Laura?
What's the climate out there for bonds? Is it?
Whew, there's a loaded question. Up until 2 days ago, interest rates are going to stay low. Life is good. The Fed chairman has, discussed and been pressured. I think he feels some political pressure, which I wish he didn't, but he does, to lower the Fed funds rate. That only controls the short end of the yield curve. We have hit points where we've had an inverted yield curve, meaning that short-term rates are higher than long-term rates. It doesn't happen very often. When it happens, it's frequently a precursor to a recession or a downward turn in the economy. So, on many fronts, you can look at and say, unemployment's low. I mean, there's a lot of good things to look at that would make them, think, oh, we shouldn't lower interest rates. But I think they're a little bit worried about that inverted yield curve. And then, one only has to open the paper to go, oh, we're fighting with China, we're fighting with whoever. And the market hates uncertainty. They absolutely hate uncertainty. And we are in the world of uncertainty. So that makes it a little bit trickier. But I was still in the, I think we're going to be in low interest rates until, thank you so much. Until yesterday's news, I guess it was, where Nancy Pelosi and the Fed chair are meeting to discuss the debt ceiling. And if she, and I'm hoping that some rationality will prevail. But if there is a hard line drawn in the sand, and the market is worried about a hard line drawn in the sand if they won't raise the debt ceiling, then it's, oh my gosh, the government might default on their bonds, and it will be the sky is falling. The markets will react very negatively for a time. We've been under this threat time and time again, and always at the 11th hour and 59th minute, magically they, come up with a compromise and things are fine. So my best guess at the moment is that interest rates will stay low and be able to sell these bonds about at the rate that I indicated. But it is a world of uncertainty, more than the likes I've seen in a long time.
And what rate are we looking at again?
I hope 2.25, 2.50. You're on the very short end of the yield curve, which is very nice.
Okay.
And just quick, because you clarified this in the work session for me, that franchise fees are not going to pay the bond. It's the savings of the energy.
Yes, ma'am.
What the lights and everything else that
Right.
we're doing.
Think of the franchise fees again in the commercial world. It's like signing a the note for your kid getting their first car loan. You're not planning on using your money to pay their car loan, but you want them to have the lowest rate. It's sort of like that, right? We're saying this is here if you need it, but we're planning on using these other revenue sources to make that debt payment.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Laura? Okay.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is complicated stuff. No
My kids
question
think
about
it's really boring, but I love it. I'm shocking,
Well,
isn't it?
you started your presentation about how much fun you've been having for 30 years.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
We need to show you some of our trails or something. We've got other ideas of fun here, but all right. Anyway, this is a report from administration. The resolution that's in consideration, as we discussed, would also set the public hearing as per state law after we take action today. So I apologize for anyone else that may have been confused, myself included. So we are prepared to entertain action.
Chair Nadelsky,
There is
if I,
some public hearing on the agenda for this, if you wanted to, and
On the public comment?
oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
if you wanted to take some public comment.
We can receive public comment tonight after we take action on the item still, but it is at least tonight.
Chair Nadolski, you
Yeah.
can always take public comment now if you wish to. You can open it up for comment now if you choose.
Okay, that would require a motion.
I don't think it would. I think you can do it.
Oh, okay,
I don't think it requires
Does it
a
require?
motion.
okay. Well, if you guys are okay with that, I'd like to entertain public comment tonight, if that's okay.
Sure.
So if you are interested in addressing the council on this item, now is your time. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record. Thanks, Rich.
Angel Castillo. You're going to make that decision after. I'm very unhappy with it, and I understand that you're unhappy with it too. And I'm just hoping that we can all figure out how it doesn't happen again, because it makes us look really bad. I'm fully supportive of this bond. I'm really excited that the city is looking at updating light to save money and having energy efficient things. Speaking of energy efficiency, I'd really like to have the council and the city consider looking at adopting Dark Skies Initiative as we replace equipment. When we're purchasing new streetlights and perhaps the new lighting that's going to go for the field, it might be good to look at the fact dark skies things are shielding. You can still have lights in cities, and there are plenty of cities that are working with the Dark Skies Initiative. I would like to see us look at meeting with chapters and figuring out how we can be more effective as a dark skies community with all the natural beauty that we have. I think it's imperative that when we go out and enjoy our natural spaces, when it's dark out, that we can see some stars. I guess this other one would go for regular public comment. So I just really want to make sure that we take a look at the process so that the public's involved prior to us making decisions. I know we all got caught and we have to make a decision to get the savings. I get that, but I'd like that we look for better solutions in the future and consider, as we replace lights, to have them be Dark Sky Initiative compliant. Thank you.
Anyone else? Welcome back, Ralph. Feeling okay today?
No. I stopped. One thing.
Brandon, can you lower that for him?
Oh.
Brandon, we got you. We got you, buddy.
I got you.
Ralph had a procedure yesterday.
No, I had a procedure 3 hours ago.
Again?
Yeah, 36 of them out of the colon. Dang, man. But I want to just say that I am just thankful that you guys at Ogden is doing like it's doing, because from the time I was 5 years old, I want to say Steve Garvey, I want to say, oh man, Bob Gibson, Frank Robinson, all these players, Hall of Fame players, right here, years and years and years, that I got my Raptors hat on now because Friday's a game, all right? I ain't worried about dark skies or any of that type of stuff. I want you to know that excitement does so much. I just got through off the operating tape a few hours ago, but I'm here because I want to make sure one thing of all this initiative, when you do the ball field, remember the ball field is people, not just Weber County, Davis County, Cache County. We all come down here to watch the ball game. It may cost a little bit more to have green grass and a nice stadium, but I remember from the time I was a kid and my daddy took me to the ball game. I was his only son, and I went to the ball game with my daddy. I saw Frank Robinson when he was started out right here in Ogden, Steve Garvey. Tommy Lasorda was the manager right here. I got these pictures, and I was going to go home and come back to you guys. But, boy, that bus rider was too bad. I said, no, let me off here. So they let me off in the drive, and they didn't even stop at the bus number because I got the pictures. I was going to bring them and show you. From the, oh, man, you got the 18 to 20 teams. You got the 68. You're standing there, boy, and Tommy Lasorda. Steve Garvey, 19 years old. These Hall of Famers ran right here on these ball fields. Let me tell you how, to an athlete, what it means when you go out there and you see your field. And it's, they come into my house. They come into my house. We got this, guys. We come into my house. I want you to know, when anything to do with that ball field out there, little kids to grown men to grandpas, we're all out there and we love it. We thank you for it, and just don't ever be underrated. It's a great job you guys are doing by leaving the enjoyment to our hearts, because that's all we're going to be taking with us when we get them boxes. I'm surprised. I told them always throw a candy bar in case I wake up, but I know one thing I'm taking with me, my Raptors games and all that. back when they were called a whole different name to it. Anybody know it? What they used to call it before the
Reds.
Bam! There we go. The Bees ain't nothing. Raptors been winning out of town the whole time, coming home to the nicest field in the place.
Thanks, Ralph.
All right.
Got to get you some rest, Ralph. You've had a tough couple days. Anybody else care to address the council?
Hi, my name is DJ Hubler with McKinstry, the ESCO that's working on the energy project. Just to address the concerns brought up about dark sky initiatives. Part of the energy project that we will be implementing, if the council takes action tonight, is replacing some of the streetlights that are already owned by Ogden City. And of those that I have looked at the designs for, most of those are dark sky compliant already in our plans to replace. And as we go through the, excuse me again, as we go through the final design, we can take a look at any of the fixtures that aren't already dark sky compliant in the design and see if that's a possible upgrade as well. So just wanted to bring that up to the council.
Thank you. Thanks, DJ. Appreciate that. Yeah.
One quick comment. I don't know how likely this would be, but something came to my mind that if I don't...
Is this reminiscent of last week?
What's...
Is this going to be reminiscent of last week?
No.
Okay.
It's reminiscent of 5 minutes ago. If I don't say these in my conscience, I think I won't feel at peace when the meeting's over. I wonder if there could be some people that looked at this agenda that didn't come here today that said maybe they wanted to comment on these items on August 20th, because that's when we said we were going to set the public hearing too.
Right. Well, that's why
And yet, if that's the case, we're not giving those people the chance to actually...
That's true.
Okay?
Well,
so I don't know how we go about fixing that now, but if I didn't say that, I'll feel bad.
Well, the plan is to accept public comment now and on the 20th.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to vote on these today.
We do have to vote on it today, but we're also have to accept public comment on the 20th. So it's confused some folks, myself included. So we're trying to give opportunity to comment now and then.
Okay.
Does that help?
So comment after we voted on something?
Comment now. That's what I said. And then we're going to vote. And then we're going to receive their comment. And then we're going to take action on the item through the bond process. She sounds like she's got a better answer for you.
May or may not. So again, state law lays out when it's under the Bond Act. The Municipal Bond Act says if you're going to issue bonds, here's a process you have to go through. You have to adopt a parameters resolution. That has to be published in the newspaper of general circulation 2 times. The public hearing can't be any sooner than 14 days after the first publication. And so we're just following the steps that they're laying out. Again, I think it's important because of, the concern about, but we're already adopting the super parameters resolution. What if you have, 1,000 people show up and don't want you to use franchise fees, right? Well, then we won't be done with the bonds yet. It's not locked in stone until a document is executed called the bond purchase agreement. The way the super parameters resolution is drafted, it's the top, let's see how good I am, the top whereas clause on page 3. It has a designated officers, thank you. Designated officers, at least 2 of them have to be from this body sitting up here. And when we price the bonds, I have to have approval from those members that you want to proceed with the bond issue. So in my mind, if you have that, 1,000 people show up and are, bringing torches because they don't want you to do this on the 20th, it is still within your power to say we are not doing the bonds with franchise fees. You can say to me, I want to still do them. I want to do them another way. Or you can say, we don't want to do them at all. So you still have that leverage, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
That helps.
Yeah, it's important. That's why we're drawing attention to this. I don't want people to think that we're
You're not listening to
that
them.
we're not listening and we're
get
doing
it.
this backwards. We're following the law. This is the procedure. This is the normal way this is done. We're just trying to honor people's expectations for transparency and clarity with
Yes.
obviously honoring the law. So,
Yes.
And we can't change the way it's done.
yeah, we can't change the way it's done.
Okay.
But we can change the way we communicate with the people that we serve while we're doing it.
Thank you.
That's all.
I think it's important, though, that this is not a final execution before the public hearing. This is just the parameters. That's all we're proving tonight. It's just the parameters of it.
So that group that would include minimum of 2 of us, I think it was me and Angela or our designee plus executive director or designee, is what I remember from the hundreds of pages. We're basically setting the parameters that they are allowed to work within.
Okay.
And that group will have the ability to listen to public comment on the 20th and tonight.
Okay.
As they do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read that language to you?
Yeah.
I have it pulled up. In order to allow the issuer Ogden flexibility in setting the pricing date of the Series 2019 bonds to optimize debt service costs of the issuer, the council desires to grant to a committee of at least any 4 of the following 6. The mayor or designee, the management services director, the chair and vice chair of the council or their designees, the council's executive director or designee, and the treasurer of the issuer are the designated officers, provided, however, that at least 2 of such designated officers shall be from the chair or vice chair or the council, or their designees. And then it blathers on with lots of other legalese.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it, Laura. Okay, any other comment from the public before we...
On this issue.
On this item, yeah.
This item.
Hope we didn't make it more confusing for you.
It wasn't a true public hearing. We don't have to close the
Now, this was just public input. Just all this was.
Yep. So we do not have to close the public hearing, but we are still going to take action on the item.
Chair, I propose that we adopt Resolution 2019-14.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember White, second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed resolution 2019-14. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye. That passes. If you guys will just allow me to explain my vote just for a moment. I think this is a smart thing to do. To realize the savings, to have the efficiencies, to roll the maintenance costs and so on into the bond. I'm struck by a comment that Councilmember Lopez made in our work session that I agree with. There's other needs beyond this, and we need to treat those equally as important. They need to rise to the level of the priority that this did, because there are people out there that are expecting us to do that. So while I kind of wish when you vote yes or no, there's not really it's either this or it's that, because we don't have a that in front of us right now. But as I consider my vote, I'm just really mindful of all of that in the need in the community. And for a lot of folks, I recognize it might not seem as urgent as lights for a ball field, brighter lights for a ball field. So I voted yes because I still think it's the responsible thing to do and the responsible way to govern. But I hope that yes comes with some clarity on what the future of the Marshall White is in the near future. I think that's this or that. That's the that sticks with me is what are we going to do with that?
Yeah, and just a follow-up comment to that, I think there's a couple of things that came out of what Laura said tonight, and that is that I'm going to paraphrase what she said, so I apologize, but that we're financially stable, that we could actually do another bond, and that we are waiting for the strategic planning process to get done. So I think there's a lot of things that are going for us in the future too. So I don't think that I think there is that. It's just not right now.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to echo the comments, Chair and Councilwoman White. And since you already said what you said, I won't say much more because I'm actually pretty unhappy about what's happening, but I'm not going to be negative about it. So we'll have a chance to address these at a later time.
We do have room in we've got room in the secure debt, but where that revenue comes from to pay for the obligation of that debt is another question.
I mean, I like to solve problems through constructive work, and I intend to do that. And you said you put it pretty clearly, and I think explained my feelings just of what I was trying to communicate when we had the work session the other day about these other needs. So just thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got more work to do.
Okay.
Thanks for entertaining my comments. Any other comments before we move to public comments? Okay. Now is your opportunity to address the council on any item. If you wish to address the council, please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record. Thanks, Brandon.
Hello, I'm Barbara Cordero. I'm sorry I'm unable to stand. I have a chronic disability. I wanted to address the council. I have found multiple problems with the city ordinance on code enforcement. I want to have some time. It'll probably take longer than 3 minutes. I apologize. But I need to let you know of the plans and problems that have ensued. I live on the southern part of Ogden City. It's on a jagged borderline. A very nice neighborhood. I have been a resident there since 1978. Before, I lived on the east bench of Ogden and Forest Green Estates. This neighborhood that I am currently living in, we had a new individual, a new homeowner that moved from out of state, I believe from Texas. He purchased a home in September, the end of September of 2018. This homeowner has not, we're talking 10 to 11 months, this individual has not mowed his lawn, nor has he even watered his lawn, nor has he moved the pod that he used to transfer his personal items. That pod has been on a city street, a neighborhood street, since September of 24th, approximately, of 2018. The neighbors were very concerned. You can imagine how long the lawn has grown and the weeds have grown. It was over 3 feet high. Wild lettuce I had noticed growing in this individual's yard was maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. There were multiple families that had called code enforcement and told them of the problem. First letter of citation, or the first letter of the violation was mailed May 31st. Then the code. Have any of you read the code, the ordinance that I'm referring to of code enforcement?
In a while.
You might want to know, because these codes have been started since 1951. That's 68 years ago. So I don't know if this code has ever been reviewed, updated, or revised.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we do have to be mindful of our time. I don't want to cut you off because I know you've got a lot of concerns. We have been getting updates on your situation. We did receive your email. We've been getting updates. We know you're having some struggles.
I think this is the #1 problem in Ogden City. I understand, and we even have the police force involved.
Can you conclude your remarks for me so I'm not?
Well,
so
this
I'm being fair.
individual, your city code is unreliable. It needs to be amended. Your code
Okay.
is, at least for the first code, you have the letter of citation. Then you have the first citation. It's 15 days. You only have a fee charged for $125.
Okay.
The second citation is after another 15 days. Then the fee increases to $250. This individual.
Okay. I need you to respect the time. We want to respect what you have to say. I promise you.
I am willing
If you've got more time, if you have more time, we can talk after. If it's okay.
May
After.
I wait and
Yes,
see
absolutely.
what this is?
But I
appreciate
do feel a need. I do have an expectation to be fair with time.
But
Okay.
I couldn't get this justice in 3
Thank you.
minutes.
I understand that too. But we will give you more than 3 minutes tonight, if that's okay. And it'll be face to face with the people that you need to talk to. Okay.
I'd like to address all of you, not just.
I know,
you.
but
Okay.
we need to be fair to all others who wish to comment as well. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment tonight? And she knows the rule.
Angel Castillo. My comment kind of ties into our planning code. As a planning commissioner, I look at this stuff a lot, and I hear a lot of things from people. What I wanted to talk about was with regards to our code and our sustainability committee and the way that we're looking at Ogden 10, 15 years from now. How are we going to make those choices so that we are environmentally sustainable? And as a planning commissioner, our buildings code is not current. We're building houses and we're allowing developers to build buildings based off of a standard that's over 10 years old, and it's incredibly more efficient now. The U.S. Department of Energy states that buildings account for 30% of all energy globally, and updated, newer energy efficient code can reduce use by 50% or more. I know it's a small thing. I know we have lots of fires for our community to put out. I know that our community is craving connection. But as we're looking at the results from your survey, and as we look at the tasks that we're going to be taking moving forward, I'd really like you to take a look at our code and how we can make steps as a city to, from here on out, our new buildings are going to be more energy efficient. They're going to be more green. With regards to code enforcement, I concur with this individual. Our code enforcement lacks teeth. Our fines are not large enough nor close together to be able to incentivize people to follow our rules. Our general plan hasn't been updated in over 20 years, so we've got a lot to talk about. And it's imperative that our administration and our council looks at where we're going as a city and who we're going to be, and that we have our code enforcement and our public safety and everything just tied into what our wants and needs are. We've got some serious updating to do, and you guys didn't write it. It's been there for a while, and I'd like us all to band together and be more proactive as opposed to reactive as these problems come to us. And I think that updating our code to be more green is going to help us take a stand as a city that these things matter to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to address the council? Okay, I'll go. And just so you guys know, there was a couple years ago, before we start your clock, my daughter, 7 years old at the time, came here and wanted to address the council. And I was really strict on the 3 minutes with her even. I promise it's not my favorite thing to do.
You have to follow the rules.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm Anna Davidson. You guys all know who I am. First, I want to say that I officially withdrew my candidacy today. And I'm going to throw my support behind not only Luis, but all of you to see what I can do to better our relationships between the community, the council, the administration. That's what ultimately my goal is to work together to do the best we can do. So we had some great conversations, and I said, I like this guy. Well, there was another word in there too. So,
thank you.
So I said, let's do this, and let's work together as a team. Let's see what we can do. And we're here again because I see the importance of people not coming in understanding the process. So I want to make sure that I can when people are griping around me, I can be like, well, I haven't seen you there. So, and I actually did do that to one of my friends and was like, well, if you can't show up, you can watch it online and then you can understand before you gripe. So just wanted to say that. Also, I'm going to have to like strongly disagree as one of those people that have had code enforcement around. I'm out there measuring my grass. I'm like, I'm a business owner. I'm working hard. So I think code enforcement is out there a lot. They maybe not hit everything, but I do think they are very diligent in a lot of areas. So I've had those code enforcement guys on my list. So I do think they do a good job. I think there's probably room for improvement with everything. But I just want to say thank you. You guys do an awesome job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I look forward to doing more with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah. We're happy to have you be here every week to be a part of this. We know everybody can't be here all the time, and we can't answer everybody's concerns in this forum either, but we do try to give everybody our attention.
No, I'm here to help you. Be racing today.
Welcome back, Ralph.
Hey, okay. Ralph Price again. I just echo what Anna said. I want to just thank you. Yeah, since I've met each and every one of you, you've reached out, even in Amy, and you saw I was right there. That it's amazing. I started a nonprofit that is called Agape Outreach. So we're doing things that help homeless, that help people coming out of prisons, jails, battered women, people that are just normal people. And shut down, we found out that their bosses and everything are taking off the Bermudas, leaving the workers, and bang, their lives fold up. I have a couple today and everything. Had a real joy to being able to bring them to Salt Lake. And Jeff and Beth stepped up over at Wasatch, Weber State, and Daily Rise, and they just stuck stickers on bags and everything. Just the joy that came back into their moments of having a job again. Jeff met them, encouraged them and everything. It just means so much to people to just be acknowledged, to just be able to see that there's a pathway back. I want to thank Ben, especially Luis. They went out with me, shook some hands, and just said something to people because they happened to be out and they saw me and they just stopped real quick and, hey, I introduced them. These guys, I'm telling you, we've been at 4 or 5 different camps and 4 or 5 different projects, and I've been in 3 different counties, all the way to Provo, Utah County, and Orem and Lehigh, and it came up that the city council of Ogden's behind us. Now, you got to remember, these people travel trying to go ahead and find some type of. They're not going out and just doing and concentrating on drugs and stuff. They're trying to find ways. I had 4 of them just now because I had to just try to find any way to find some power. So I stopped in at Municipal, Misdemeanor Court, cost of power different, outright 3 of my guys in there say, hey, look, I turned myself in. They're happy about it. They're actually becoming accountable. There's 5 people that I have. They bought a truck together. They put a lean-to thing up. They got made-up bench-type things matching the other. They got shared condo housing because the couple sleeps in the front. The one in the thing is 2 other families, and that's what they're doing so they can take steps towards a studio apartment when they get their paychecks in 2 weeks. But each of them had not just sleeping in front of buildings or anything or down galleys or this. They bought them and talked to people, and that's becoming the new norm. And finding ways to go ahead and upgrade themselves, upgrade their community, upgrade their neighborhood, and feel good about contributing to Ogden City instead of being a derelict. I want to thank you guys because you guys are responsible for that. You guys encouraged me, and I want you to know I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing because you guys are knocking it out of the ballpark. Right?
Thanks, buddy.
I'd love to talk to the mayor's office sometime. Can't get to that 5th floor, though.
Didn't mean for that to happen.
Yeah, you need to indulge in that conversation. I think Ralph was talking about Jeff and Beth Furton at Daily Rise Coffee hired a couple folks today. Those are just good people. Jeff and Beth are just fantastic people, local business owners that are going out of their way to help others. So. Okay, anybody else care to address the council? All right, I think we did it.
Can I just add one name to that, too? Just Winston White, you guys. Grandson of Marshall White.
got you.
On his feet again, because he had a chance to be council member. He went all the way in 2 days' time, just sitting out on 25th. Hey, he went over and found a place. Marshall White said back on his feet.
Yeah.
That's what you mean.
That's one of the gentlemen I met on the streets. So Ralph's going around Ogden and trying to get to know people, figure out what their circumstances, understand them, and find out what he can do to help them. That's what he's describing, and Mr. White was one of the gentlemen I met. Next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock at night, and you're walking around with Ralph. You're like, wow, I've met a lot of people. But it's important because I think it helps us keep a perspective of that. We kind of often talk about it, but it's a little abstract for us because we're all really lucky. So I would encourage you, if you want to spend some time with Ralph, he'll make it happen. I hope your recovery gets better, bud. 3 surgeries in 3 days, I think you've had. Okay, comments from the mayor.
Sure. I'll start with Ralph since that's the topic of the moment. You're welcome to come meet with me anytime. I'd love to have that, and we'll set it up. We'll set up. You have to have an appointment. We can certainly do that. We don't want you to come up and wait for 3 hours because we're in meetings or anything else. But I'd be more than happy to talk to you anytime, and appreciate your optimism and what you're doing. So I'll look forward to having that conversation with you. Wanted to clarify a couple of things as we're talking about code and residential building code. A lot of that is actually set by the state legislature and what we can and can't do. So we'll certainly engage in some of that dialogue. But when you think that a lot of them are developers and builders and everything else, they kind of set the guardrails for what we can and can't do as a local municipality. But we're more than happy to engage in that conversation. I think that's a conversation we'll look forward to having in the future. Then I also want to just briefly give a call out to Council Member Stevens. He's wearing the right flair. We'll celebrate this year the 85th year of the Ogden Rodeo, Hall of Fame rodeo, one of the PRCA top 5 outdoor rodeos in the United States of America. So we'd invite everybody to come out and participate in that. It's a really unique thing this city does, better than just about anybody else. So invite everybody to come down and participate in Pioneer Days starting on Friday. I appreciate all the volunteers that helped put that thing together. So, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Mayor. Comments from the council? Chair, I've got to say, tonight was a little bit of a first. We got some kudos today from the public. It doesn't usually happen, but we are so grateful when it does. I'm kind of looking forward to the next couple of weeks with all the celebratory things with the rodeo, the parade, and myriad of other events that happen. Hope the community comes around and participates in that with us. It's a great time for the city of Ogden, and looking forward to it. And thanks for the kudos. Yep. Anyone else?
I have a few comments there, Chair. I appreciate the comments that we've heard this evening, and I believe our council and our council staff and even the administration are always looking at the codes and then trying to see where things can be improved or can be updated according to the law. But in defense of the code enforcement, they have a tough job, and it's not a real pleasant job. But I had a situation in my yard, and I heard that there was some complaints about my pine trees in front, and so I went and cut the trees off, and the yard looks much better. In fact, I can see up the street now, and that was mainly because of the opportunity that code enforcement had. And so if we follow their direction, and sorry that the one gentleman didn't, or your neighbor didn't follow the direction, but they're there to make sure that our city is presented well. In Ralph's comments about the Raptors, Bellinger now plays for the LA Dodgers, and he played here also. But I recall that many of the names that you recalled, and I'm only 39 years old, so that puts that where that should be. I always remember when Ralph.
100 and what did you say?
No.
Sorry, Doug. Sorry, couldn't take it.
I recall when Ralph was talking shades of the Sandlot movie came back into my mind.
Yeah.
Of those boys out there on the playgrounds playing baseball. But the Raptors are in first place and moving ahead very, very rapidly. Kudos to the mayor's daughter for receiving the award in Washington, D.C. I believe there was, 160 students that were presented there?
Yep, 161 in the nation. So
yeah, and that's a great accomplishment for her and for your family in that. And I'm sure you're very proud of your daughter and the achievements that she made. In retrospect to Pioneer Days, it took me 7 years to get one of these shirts because I was a parade director that long, and that's what it takes. But this is the time of the season when we can all enjoy the events of Ogden. Pioneer Days is part of the history of Ogden. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our summers. We always look forward to those things that happen in the summer, but when it comes Pioneer Days and that's all over with, I know the summer is pretty well past. But we have an opportunity to enjoy the Pioneer Days celebration, the stadium over there on Canyon Road and 17th Street. Last night we had the Horse and Hitch Parade, which I believe was a great turnout there, but this is the time that we can all enjoy that. I appreciated the mayor's comments in the Sunday evening program. I thought it was very appropriate in talking about the pioneers. But this is part of our lives here in Ogden City, and we need to enjoy that, and I hope we do. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else?
First, I have a question. Is someone going to meet with Mrs. Cordero tonight?
I will be if someone from administration can as well. It'd be great. So, Mark, yeah, thank you.
Right. I want to thank Anna and Ron for their support and for the work you do in the community. I visited their business a couple times in the last few days, and she invited me to come talk to her the first time. And, I just can't believe that I never had a chance to meet you guys because you do some amazing things in the community, and I commend you for it. And I thank you for it's an honor that you have given me your support. So I really appreciate it, and I look forward to working together with you on a lot of the things that we talked about. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank the mayor because in the last couple months we've had a few conversations that have been some of those that people call courageous conversations, I think, about issues that are important. And the mayor has always been very good to have these one-on-ones with me. I'm sure he probably does it with you too. And when we talk, I always feel that he's genuine in his desire to work with us on the things that are important for our city. So for the last 2 times that we've talked about these, I just want to say thank you for that. Thanks.
Thanks, Luis. Sometimes we fall in a trap that there's some expectation or some norm out there in this country that when you're in politics that you got to make everything political or personal. It just shouldn't be that way, and it's not that way here. And things have been difficult at times. We have hard conversations. There's no doubt. But yeah, I think I'm glad that we are always working to remind each other that it's not about politics. It's about progress for this community. And I think we can all agree that everybody's heart here is in the right place for this community. So appreciate your engagement too, Mayor. It means a ton. Anyone else? I think we got everybody. Just real quick, I apologize that I had to cut you off. I hate doing that. There's nothing that makes you feel and look and be less empathetic as a body than sitting behind a clock and saying, I'm sorry, I can't do anymore. That's why we are working really hard to give everybody who comes here the time.
Research, pulled many cords.
Yeah.
I prepared prepared.
Perfect.
So I look
We
forward to just meeting with you.
and we will spend time with you after the meeting to make sure you're heard. Okay. Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, guys.